To this point, we've been looking at WordPress as an ePortfolio tool. Now, WordPress was originally and is kind of considered to be a blogging tool, and it's one of the most popular tools on the web for blogging and in general for creating websites. Today, what we've been looking at is publishing using blog posts. So when we go to our sample ePortfolio and take a look at it, what we can see is that each of the posts that we put up today are in chronological order. In other words, each post has a title and a date and time associated with it. Now, this is fine if our ePortfolio is time-based or timeline-based. In other words, let's, for example, assume that I'm engaged in a project. It might make sense for me to publish my ePortfolio as a series of time-sensitive or related posts in an order. And that could be used, for example, for students doing projects, for work experience, for maybe reflecting on teaching practice throughout a semester. These timeline posts are very relevant. However, there are occasions when you want to have a more static area on your site or on your ePortfolio, which maybe lists or highlights important content or things that you want the viewer or reader to take a look at when they visit your site. And this is where pages come in useful. Now, if you look at the moment, if you click on the pages link here, you'll see that our site already has 2 pages here, an about page and a contact page. Now, what's the difference between a page and a post? Well, a post is timeline or chronological order. It's time sensitive. Pages are almost timeless. They tend to be more static. They tend to be able to be located in a particular area of our site and aren't really related to this timeline. So what I could do, for example, is create pages that I think are important or relevant to my ePortfolio. So let's say, for example, I want to have an area of my site which just lists out all of the conference workshops and presentations that I've given. What I could do is I could add a blog post every time I give a conference workshop or a presentation, but in order to view them in their totality, I'd have to search through the various posts to find all the information. It might be a good idea to have one summary page which just lists all of these different workshops and presentations. Yes, I could have a blog post to describe each one individually, one post per workshop or presentation, but it would be nice to have a page which just lists them all. So I'm now going to add a page to the ePortfolio here. I'm going to call it Conference Workshops and Presentations, and I'm just going to take some sample filler text here, and again, I'm going to paste it here. Now, most of the options here are similar to posts. For example, we have our featured image option where we can set an icon or an image for the page. We also have the sharing options, so we can have like and sharing buttons for social networks, and our slug, our excerpts. We can add a location, and we can also allow comments and pingbacks and tracebacks, which are disabled here by default. So, for example, the only real thing that I need to look at is the page options. On WordPress, there's a slightly, I won't say archaic, actually I will say archaic, there's a slightly archaic way of organizing pages, and that is using page ordering and also the hierarchy levels. Now, this kind of makes sense. We can have the page as a top level page. In other words, it's not under anything else in the hierarchy, or we can place it under existing pages in the site. So for example, I could make it a sub page of the about page or the contact page, but in this case I'm going to leave it as a parent page. I can also change the page template, in other words, how it's displayed on the site. So the list of templates that will appear here depend on the theme that you're using. But in this case, you can have it full width with no sidebar, or the content on the right with no sidebar either. In this case, I'm going to leave it as a default template. The page ordering is primarily used to change the ordering of how these pages are displayed on menus, and we'll look at menus later on. But for the time being, I'm now going to publish this page. I'm going to add another page now really quickly. So if I go back to my site, I can see here that the conference workshops and presentations page has been added. I'm going to add a second page here. I'm going to call it Research and Publications. Again, I'm going to put in some filler text here, and I'm not going to change any of the options. So we go back to our site. I can now see there's 2 pages created. I'm going to create one more page. I'm going to call this maybe Teaching Practice. So I'll add in a third page here, Teaching Practice. I'll take some filler text. Again, I'm just copying and pasting this, and I'm not going to set any of the options, and I'm just going to save my page. When I go back now to the list of published pages on my site, I can see that I've got all these pages published. So you would expect now that when I go back to my ePortfolio, I'll see these pages somewhere, but I don't. The portfolio at the moment has been set up to show blog posts in chronological order. That was a template that I picked at the start when I set this up. Now I could change this, I could pick a different theme or a template, or I could configure my template or theme, which I will do later on. But the easiest way to add links to pages is to alter the menus. And we're going to show you that now in a few minutes using the video on menus. But what I need to do is add a menu here which lists the new pages or the pages that I've added to my site. Now these pages do exist, but they're just not visible to the user at present. Finally, I can manage the pages. So for example, if I have a new conference workshop or presentation, I can simply click on this and I can either view the page, edit or trash it. So if I wanted to add a new workshop or a presentation, I could open up and I could add new details here and maybe a hyperlink to a presentation. Maybe I could upload a file or some images. I click on update and that page will now be updated. Again, I haven't linked it anywhere in the site, but my page is updated. I can also take any of these pages and trash them. So when you trash a page, you're deleting it, but actually you're putting it into a trash can on WordPress. This is handy because occasionally pages do get trashed. So if I take a look at my overall site and come back into this pages link here, I can see that the page has vanished from view. But if I click on trashed, I can see that my page is still retained in a trash can. If I want to now, I can delete it permanently or I can restore the page. And once the page is restored, it's put back onto the list of published pages. So that's how we create and manage pages and set them up on our site. The next thing we need to do is make them visible or accessible to our users by adding them to menus, or even later on we'll look at how we can actually make pages visible through our themes.